Oh boy, is this great!
Welcome to the show that we like to call Two Movies Enter and One Movie Leaves. This week's show, we're going to have a face-off between Old School and Animal House. Old School, of course, that Will Ferrell, Vince Vaughn, fucking one of the other fellas, the brothers, versus Animal House starring Dead Belushi and...
That's horrible.
A bunch of people that you'll kind of go, oh, what were they in? And then you go, oh my God, they're gone so old. Because it was like 40 years ago. More than 40 years ago. Nearly 50 years ago. But yeah, so this week we're not going to go through we're just going to talk about the show for anyone that's...
Well, I think we should probably stick with a few of the points so we have some sort of a frame on which to hang it. Otherwise we'd be like, well, I think this is better. I know that's better.
Well, yeah, you can compare it in your own head. You can kind of think, oh, well, the cinematography was better in this or that. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose a rundown of the plots of the two. So do you want to explain what Old School is?
Old School, I suppose. Luke Wilson is a lawyer who arrives home from work early one day to find his girlfriend right in the middle of like a foursome.
Juliette Lewis, who's
hilarious, hilariously trashy. So basically he's starting his life all over again. He's after moving, he needs to move into a new house and all the rest and try and get himself back together. So it turns out he rents a house that belongs to a university, and in order to keep the house he needs to have some university related activities on it, so they decide to start a frat as older gentlemen. And shenanigans ensue, basically.
It basically is Animal House, but...
with 30-year-old men.
With it. And then Animal House is the adventures of, like, the worst fraternity, Delta House, on the campus. I don't even know what name of the thing is, but it's Animal House kind of started off all of the gross out comedies and the teen
all
comedies, I think,
comedies,
like that. Yeah. So it's the general. If you've never seen Animal House before, I'm sure you've seen either some version of it in The Simpsons or an American Pie movie or fucking. I think didn't they have a version of it on Futurama as well, where Bender went to college. So it's about this dean who puts the frat house on super secret probation, and it's just their adventures really, and their eventual
getting drunk and falling around and getting into shenanigans and all the rest.
And it was done by the National Lampoons as well, who it was a magazine in the 60s and 70s that was like irreverent. Kind of college humour, I suppose. It probably would have been college humour, the YouTube channel before college. YouTube existed.
The forerunner to it.
Yeah, and of course it led on to stuff like SNL and all the National Lampoon movies with Chevy Chase, and it gave birth to an awful lot of stuff. And as well, it was John Landis directing it. And, it introduced the world to a lot of these people. I think John Landis was after doing Kentucky Fried Movie before this.
Possibly.
So it was like, which was also done with the Zuckermans, who would have went on and did like Airplane in the same style and all those. So... yeah, I think because there's not much of a plot to Animal House really holding it together, and of course then like the 80s would have really just like there is a load of things copied, like with Rodney Dangerfield's movies like Back to School and stuff. Police Academy, I think is
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack.
All of these kind of films.
Well, like with like Rodney, hey, let's party.
Oh, what?
Sorry, I have the dog up on my lap and he's just wiggling to get down. Because he really wanted to look at horror movies this week.
Yeah, he's disgruntled
on comedies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's. I think the two, when you look at compared to two IMDb scores, IMDb would say that National Lampoon's Animal House is slightly better than Old School, as Animal House has 7.4 out of 10 and Old School has 7 out of 10. So. Yeah, that's the end of the show.
Go look at IMDb. Yeah. Yes, maybe don't.
But that goes to show how close the two of them are, I think.
And I think they almost follow a same kind of a thread insofar as like, it's sort of like, oh God, we've got to save the fraternity house and the dean is after us and all of this kind of stuff. But it just takes an extra weird twist in Old School because it's the dean is like after them because they're not even students of the campus.
Well, that's it. And who was it that played the dean in Old School? Oh, God, I can't remember. He's that horrible fucking shit.
What?
Jeremy Piven.
Yes, he's a horrible shit in the film. Like.
He's a horrible shit in real life as well.
Is he?
There's a load of stuff came out about Jeremy Piven.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fucking. Yeah, there's a lot of sexual assault allegations, and as well, he was meant to be a giant douche to work with, as well. So of course these are allegations. Not saying, but
Dick in real life.
But you never know.
Yeah.
Could be.
Exactly. They're all
Who
allegations.
knows?
Exactly. That's
Allegations.
It. But he, in fairness to him, he does play the perfect fucking dweeb of a dean, if you know what I mean, in this. It turns out he would have gone to school with all of the guys back in the day, and he was
the younger brother of one.
Exactly, yeah. So his nickname was Cheese, and fucking got locked into lockers and got wedgied and all of that kind of stuff, and still bearing a grudge against these guys because now he's a super successful dean with a load of power to wield.
Yeah, and he's just an asshole to all the students. I think that's where the funny kind of thing with him being just because, like Wormer in Animal House, he's not really an asshole. He's
just a straight-laced fuddy-duddy, yeah.
I think one of my favourite scenes with him in Animal House is a bit, where he's like talking to the mayor, and for some reason they have to bribe the mayor so they can do the homecoming parade.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and the mayor is like, you better pay up or I'll have your legs broken. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Whereas like both films, I think they have just like
moments of absurdist humor.
I think Animal House does it better because the way it's shot in Animal House is shot like an old film, and it has that old, because it is an old film now, I suppose.
Yeah.
But and even with the music,
it was 78, but it was sort of
set in the
reference back to the 60s. Yeah.
But it's just like this mad kind of shit that I suppose at the time it must be really shocking and really weird because like no one would have been expecting it at the time. Like you would have maybe American Graffiti was probably the closest thing to it, going back then. But a lot of, I don't know, like comedy movies, it would have been Woody Allen.
It's a very narrow definition of comedy there.
John Wayne farting on the toilet with Groucho Marx coming up being like, I don't want to be part of your club.
Yes. But.
Or MASH. You hate MASH.
I like potatoes.
Yes, but you don't like MASH.
I don't know. You don't like MASH.
I don't like either.
No, but anyway, back to...
Yes, back to what?
Animal House.
Animal House, yeah. It's what we're talking about.
That's what I was saying.
See, this is what happens.
We need a structure.
Yeah, we don't need a structure.
We don't need roads where we're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so I suppose, well, if you want to have a look at it from, like, we've already kind of discussed the storyline and the plot, I suppose, really.
Or a lack thereof.
Yes, exactly. Oh, well, in fairness, there is a kind of a strong through plot in the likes of Old School because it is, there's a beginning, a middle and an end where it's sort of like everything comes together in the end and the hero gets the girl and the torch is handed on to the next round of, sort of pledges or whatever. And
where that's it. With Animal House, they all get expelled. They all get, but yet they all seem to manage to get, like one of them who's a doctor, he somehow managed to become a doctor, and it's the thing. John Belushi's character in it as well. He goes on to become like a senator. So one of the things that, like, I mean, it's when people always go on about like things being problematic. So one of the things that the two of them have in common, even though there's probably 30 years between the two of them, was one of the points in Animal House, one of the main characters, he ends up sleeping with this. The only kind of love, kind of like, or kind of like story that's in it, and it's not even a love story, it's like he wants to get laid. So he's with this local girl that works in the thing, and then when he's after sleeping with her and she's like, oh, I forgot to tell you I'm only 13. And he's like, what?
And again, that same trope is in
Luke Wilson sleeps with, it turns out to be his boss's daughter who's in high school. So she was 16, 17, I don't know. But
he's
kind of
full grown adult, So there is that whole sort of like underage girl sort of fucking, but it's always the girl who's portrayed as kind of like she's the wild party animal and like the poor guy was just hoodwinked.
She lied about her age, whereas I think it's more forgivable in the Animal House one, even though it's like complete and utter paedophilia. But they're closer in age. Whereas I'm not even going to try it. No. But like, the other thing. But it's just one of these things that it was one of these things that was used as a joke in things for a long time. Whereas like, oh, the underage girl. where it's a bit like, ugh.
Yeah.
Whereas I do like it is still a bit cringy with Luke Wilson even now because it's like. There is that kind of like, oh gosh, got caught, oh gosh.
It's like, oh no,
with it. Whereas, there was no resolution to it in Animal House. Was there? I think maybe they got married because there was talk of doing a sequel to
got
it.
Married? What?
Yeah, where he was going to get married to her.
Oh.
And that's Delta House were going to get together to go to the wedding.
Oh. I don't remember this at all. Did I fall asleep?
Oh, I said there was going to be a sequel.
Oh, right. Jesus, I'm so confused. I was just like, what? How much of this film did I fucking miss? Like, oh my God.
Oh, you were away for all of Animal
I thought
House.
so,
And you've seen it numerous times.
Yes, but this is where that came totally out of left field there. I was like, what? This is a secret film I haven't seen? Obviously I haven't though. Because it doesn't exist.
No, but like when we're talking about the cast as well with the two of them, like I think there's a lesser known cast in Animal House.
Yes.
Even at the time, I suppose John Belushi would have been the big name.
Yeah.
And it's like not that the rest of them they're all brilliant in it, but it would have been like a young cast of kind of unknowns, I suppose.
Up and coming, yeah.
Yeah, where people went on and had careers afterwards, and as well, kind of like it really gave birth to, like we were saying, with the whole National Lampoon's thing and that kind of like film, kind of like
That
making
style,
thing afterwards. Whereas with old school, you do have it seemed to be it was people that were on the rise because we saw it, I think, after Anchorman and all that. Even though it was out, I think before a lot of those films, or maybe it was like straight to DVD over here. But it was one of those things where it nearly seemed to be that it was sent out to. It wasn't promoted or pushed.
No, it wasn't. It just started to seem to just appear in like video stores and stuff.
Yeah.
That was it.
And then of course, like I mean, it would have been just. I think Will Ferrell after this would have went on to become a star, and like obviously he's not one of the main stars in it. It's like Luke Wilson's movie.
Yeah.
With it, and Vince Vaughn to a certain degree, and I think Vince Vaughn and then Will Ferrell would have went on.
Yeah, being Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn, basically every character they ever play seems to be some iteration of this. Like
there would have been Anchorman, and then what was it, Starsky and Hutch? You know, that they kind of there was a lot of that stuff where they kept kind of like there was a lot of crossover between the people in it. And Todd Phillips, of course, saying went on with The Hangover seemed to kind of like blow him up.
Yeah.
As well, and it's got like I think what's her name, Ellen Pompeo. Yeah, that she was in Grey's Anatomy. Am I right?
Oh,
or one of those
be. I was
things.
wondering where is.
And she's also in the Hangover movies.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think there was any of the rest of them kind of popped up in the Hangover movies, did they?
No. Well, I think the cast, I suppose, of this, like you have a lot of the sort of the kind of the standard comedy faces. Like you have who's the guy that played Blue, like the old.
Oh yeah.
The old chap, and you have like again. Oh, geez, I'm useless for names, but wasn't he in Me, Myself, and Irene as one of the stepsons?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Like the big one I forgot about it until we were looking at was when Sean William Scott popped up.
Yeah, absolutely.
As the donkey handler with the trank gun.
Yeah, and the mean
fucking
streak.
the mullet. Yeah.
That whole scene, I suppose, is just pure poetry though as well. Like it's done so well, and it's every beat of comedy is done so well. Like it's just this whole stupidity of like, oh, be careful with that trank gun. It's kind of like why, and pops himself in the neck immediately, and then just destroys a whole children's birthday party. And
it's those kind of things I think that Will Ferrell does really, really well.
Yeah.
Where it's like even where he just pushes the kid out of the way. Where it's this thing where it's like, who do that? Or these things you don't see too often in films, and it's really funny when it's like.
Totally unexpected, and it's almost a shock value at the comedy.
It's nearly like the Andy Samberg scene in Hot Rod where he goes on fire at the party, like, and then you're a terrible stunt. You're a terrible. Sorry, that was just really mean. But yeah, it's. Cast. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, whereas so I think you have like all these up and comers on it. So like I mean I think. Todd Phillips, I don't think look was much ado with, like, because obviously they picked the right people for it, but I think it was a thing that kind of nearly happened with a lot of, say, people that were like in Ghostbusters and where you had that scene with Chevy Chase and all those for a few years and Eddie Murphy and that SNL crowd afterwards where they got all these people together for that small film. Same as like Waiting.
Yeah.
With Ryan Reynolds and a few other people, where it's
That
like
never really hit too big though.
no, but they got a good cast together before they got big.
Yeah. I mean, like Old School had a few like kind of heavy hitters there as well. I mean, you had Snoop Dogg turning up like to play the frat house party.
But they must know Snoop Dogg as well, because they had Snoop in fucking the Starsky and Hutch film as well, and so there was obviously some connection going on
there somewhere. Yeah.
But there was all those kind of people kind of caught up and locked together with things, whereas that didn't really happen to other than the people that were involved in the making of Animal House with it. So if we were given points, which we're not, I suppose kind of like Old School, it
probably win on that.
Be there with it.
Well, that's the level of characters, I suppose. The actual acting in it.
I think they're good actors in both of them.
Both are nice.
Yeah, it's like I think
critique.
Will Ferrell ends up playing Will Ferrell.
Yeah,
and
even though he's Frank Attack.
And Vince Vaughn just plays Vince Vaughn. He's the same as fucking kind of like in
Dodgeball,
apart from Psycho.
Yeah.
And the one thing we'll say about Vince Vaughn, for years I think people were like, oh, he can't act, or he's not. Like, you look at him in, what was that? Riot in Cell Block 42 or whatever it was. Fucking hell. We must really look at Dragged Across Concrete. I keep meaning to look at that. It's like the follow-up film by your man that directed. But Vince Vaughn is a fucking amazing actor. He was actually really good in True Detective season 2 as well. Even though that season 2 was a pile of shit.
He plays, as people say, Vince Vaughn, but like he does this, he walks this very fine line of being thoroughly unlikable but yet too likeable that you can't hold anything against him. Like, he's just this smooth talking funny guy, and like he comes out with some horrible shit. Like he's clearly like not happy with the wife or the kids at home, but yet he's the best dad going, and he's this sort of like a neighborhood family guy, and you believe it. You believe this guy exists because there's so many people like that.
He really did he does the everyday, the average Joe kind of thing very, very
Joe.
well.
Yeah.
With stuff, and he's just comes across as likeable. Now, I don't think a lot of these standalone movies where they put him in as the lead really did as well. Maybe they are as far, I don't know, because I haven't looked at him. Like, I think there's one where he's, I don't know, some like Baby Daddy or something. There was like a stretch of movies, but this happened with a lot of those. Even with Will Ferrell, most of these movies ended up going straight to DVD and like B-movie kind of things, or now he just seems to pop up in bigger movies and kind of like smaller parts.
Yeah, but even the rest of the cast as well. I mean, they're all kind of cast fairly perfectly, and I think they were very, I suppose, likeable characters in themselves, even though they're carrying out like stupid things. Like even the kids who became members of the frat who were actually going to university.
There's one of them ended up being in The Big Bang Theory, Howie, I think, in The Big Bang thing.
Didn't the other guy end up in Ash versus Evil Dead?
I don't know.
Your man Spanish in it?
No, I think that was Reaper.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Sorry, yes. My God, how terrible am I just because it's the same haircut.
That was a great show, actually.
It was actually. I was trying to remember because there was some comedy show I knew he popped up in that was really good, but
that just seemed to
drift away into nothing. Yeah,
it was really for Ray Wise played the devil in it, and I can't remember your man that played Sock.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, he was very funny in it, and then I think he's been in a load of other stuff since. But
was it Dale Tucker?
Yeah, but he's been in loads of TV shows. I think he does serious stuff now. Probably wanted to try and break away from the comedy
pigeonhole role. Yeah. But no, that's what I mean. Like, it's sort of the women as well don't get. That's what I kind of like about Old School. The women don't kind of get too sidelined either, because Will Ferrell obviously he's having marital. He's just after getting married, and the guys are painting her as this like awful bitch. But she's actually not. Like, she's trying to get along in life, and she's got her own.
Well, it's just Vince Vaughn, but he's not painting her as a bitch. He's just saying that don't get married, because he's saying that he always puts on the thing that he's not happy in his marriage, where he is. When he gets a chance to cheat on the wife, he doesn't do it. He's like,
true
I'm
enough.
happily married.
I can't. Married, won't do that. But it is like the women get their own little side adventure where they're like going to a blowjob class and all of this kind of stuff.
Or they pass the what's the test?
Is it the Bechdel test, where one woman is talking to another woman about something other than a man?
Yeah.
I don't know actually, because they're doing it for their husbands and their boyfriends, and the main love interest then every time she talks to Luke Wilson, it's to talk about her boyfriend or her so I'm not sure it quite would actually. They don't have any female fraternities. What are female fraternities are called something. Sororities, yes. Yeah. You know we're not from the States, having no clue about what are the things they have with the females.
See, there wasn't really a focus on the call. It was about them, and I think it's probably the best use of, well, we get talking about music later on, but it's, say with the female characters, say with Animal House, you had Karen Allen, who was like Indiana Jones's missus. Yeah. See you there again. That's
I know, you're justifying them by a man, rather than as her own right.
But that's the films.
I know, but again, she again is a very strong, she's her own strong character for the most part. She's a bartender at the frat house kind of thing, and she's, she's feisty and she's not afraid
she's
to
like the mother hen of the frat house. But she's just always smiling and doesn't take things. See, that's where everyone just doesn't seem to take things
seriously.
But and then there's like the 13-year-old stuff.
So let's brush over that a little.
But then there was a sorority in it where they were all just.
Yeah, they were like sort of the good girls, if you know what I mean, and they're the mean girls really, I suppose. They're your sort of growing up to be your Stepford wife kind of sororities, really, I suppose. And they all hung out with the dickhead fraternity. That was all we're going to grow up to be bank managers and
I'm convinced as well that the guy that was like the head of the army in that ended up doing the Twisted Sister thing for I Wanna Rock, where he's a teacher going, oh, Mr. Sister, what is it you want to do with your life?
I wanna rock. Yes.
But he's like that character. This is the thing, a lot of men, they're not great actors in Animal House, but they're very funny. Like, he plays the character he's just so hateable and such a shit. You can't root for any of the people on it. And Kevin Bacon, I forgot Kevin Bacon was in Animal House as well, very briefly in it. And it's they're just not like, whereas in Animal House as well, they're not really nice people either.
No, there's not really any nice characters, because they're all just like
breaking shit. The only one that's nice is Flounder. Because like even he comes along with and he's like, even when they're bringing up the slideshow at the potential people for the thing, they bring up the picture of Flounder, they all start throwing beer cans. They're like, oh, just based on how he looks.
Yeah, exactly. Just because he looks like a bit of a dweeb or a dork or whatever. But then again, like, that's the thing as well. It's all over the place, because he continues to be a relatively nice character the whole way through it, and he's like, oh, I've got my serious gal here and all the rest, and then it's like he's off trying to like get laid with other girls. It's very bizarre. But that was actually another thing that was a little bit problematic. Yeah. Coming to think of it, like, they were sort of I can't remember names. Your man was like, oh, my girlfriend just passed away and I can't be left alone tonight, getting a girl to feel sorry for him. Then they all go to this like local club that's like specifically like a blacks only club.
But they don't know that until they get in.
No,
because
I know,
it's like Otis Knight, I think.
A guy who played at their frat, he's here.
And they're passing when he goes, oh, he loves us, let's go in and see it. And they go in and it's like an all black. And I remember this is set during the 60s, so there would have been like,
there would have still been a small bit of segregation, I suppose, as regards that. But it turns into like sort of all the guys in the bar start threatening them, so they just up and leave, and they leave the girls.
They leave the women, because they're like, can we have your dates? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and it's just like, what? They're not fucking possessions, oh my god. But that was just a little.
Well, at that stage, even when the film would have been shot, that probably would have been even liberal, because like I mean, it would have been a very liberal movie. Like the people that would have made it would have been very liberal. So it's not like.
No, it's not like that's the worldview or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? That women are possessions, but it's just, I suppose, the prevailing attitude towards comedy effects at the time.
It still is though. Rightly so, like.
You get back in the kitchen. I'm not going to get in the kitchen.
Well, we won't get into
I don't go into the kitchen.
But acting wise, I think it's on par with the two. Although, like, really, you do have a stronger. But like, I mean, it is the thing. Like we're saying, Will Ferrell just always plays Will Ferrell. Yeah. One of the other people that he plays D-Day in Animal House. He was the mayor in Reacher. In season 1 of Reacher. Yeah. Well, because I was looking at it going, fucking, like, I've seen Animal House a load of times, so I was looking at it, I was like, what the fuck was he in? He was definitely, because you know, sometimes and of course, like, he's an old man now, but it was just kind of fun to see
Yes, exactly. Yeah, try and draw the lines of where everyone ended up, really, I suppose. But yes, what do you want to have your next marker be?
Oh, the one marker. Well, it's, I don't know, I suppose we are ended up kind of
Kind of doing it a little bit?
yeah, we're kind of going back to doing our thing, but we're not giving scores out openly. We're being sneaky about it. But it's, I suppose with the cinematography when you're looking at the two, I think, before we go away from Andy Dick was the blowjob guy as well, and I fucking can't stand Andy Dick, but this is one of the few films that
He's actually kind of funny in.
Yeah.
Like, because he's purposefully obnoxious in this. He's like a horrible character. But yeah, he's very funny and very well suited for that particular role.
But it's Will Ferrell as well, because Will Ferrell thinks he's in there fucking like...
Yeah, getting the wife to give him a blowjob.
Yeah, so he goes into and he gets the shit beaten out of him. They're all like at the guy that beats the shit out of him. Oh, are you okay?
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah, exactly. But again, it's all these non sequiturs, I suppose, that make it so funny, where it's just totally unexpected. Well, actually, I suppose there's a few scenes that are sort of like stand out in either of the two as regards like acting and stuff like that. Like, I mean, if you go back to Animal House, there's a scene where like what's his name is coming down the stairs from the toilet.
Oh, John Belushi.
Yeah, and there's a guy sitting there doing the usual, playing an acoustic guitar at a party.
As made famous at the start of fucking, what's the song?
That's what I was going to say.
Grease.
Yeah, Municipal Waste.
Municipal Waste,
ripped it entirely off, like.
Yeah.
But that's such a notable sort of scene like that. It's, there's bands are doing direct rip-offs of it and kind of covering it, little homages to it.
Oh, that's it. Anyone who is into trash, even if you're not, look at the video for Municipal Waste, Grease. It doesn't start off with that. That's it. It's a breakup thing. But that video.
That's essentially, it's Animal House, or it's old school, basically.
It's new Animal House, where it's like just people doing rampant amount of drugs and just fucking crazy fucking shit. It's very funny.
But that's what I'm saying about, say, Animal House as well. It set the standard for all of that, and everything that kind of came after it maybe was sort of built on the shoulders of it.
Well, it's just stupid things in it that it even shows up in Father's Head with the bottles being thrown at people.
Yeah.
There's just something funny about a bottle being thrown at someone.
Yeah, from off.
For no reason whatsoever.
A bottle gets thrown from off screen and just fucking smacks someone in the face. And it's just, I think it happens at the very start of Animal House, where one of the women just gets like pegged in the face with a glass bottle, and she just kind of shrugs and, brushes it off, and it's just like, fucking what? Jesus Christ.
But it's just that stupidity, that chaos, I think that makes Animal House, whereas I think old school is less chaotic.
Yeah. I think Animal House is a little bit more like fucking live action Muppets or something like that, or it's just a little bit all over the place, wild and wacky kind of
it's
thing.
A cartoon. It's Looney Tunes, basically, isn't it?
Actually,
well, there's probably like Looney Tunes probably played a bigger role in it than people let on. I think cinematography wise as well. I think Animal House, for a film that's nearly 50 years old, really stands out. I think it was shot really, really nice.
Holds up so well. Like, I mean, if you're looking at it, and if you didn't, like, because it's a period piece as such, like, and it's like meant to be the 60s, if somebody showed that to you and said, oh, this is done in the early 90s and just using a retro feel for the 60s, you go, yeah, absolutely, I totally believe that. It doesn't feel like it was shot in 78, if you know what I mean. It doesn't. It's not dated as regards
the people
how it's
don't look dated. Sometimes you look at a movie from the 70s and you go, oh, they look like they're from the 70s.
Yeah.
Just by, like, even I know it's really because it's like the fashion is still there in it, but there's just something about the people look modern in it, but not modern at the same point.
I think it was a very clever move setting it in a specific time period as well, because it's not like this, oh, this is happening currently. It's like, no, this happened in the 60s in this frat house, so it's like pinpointed to that time.
But I think the way people were dressed and carried themselves was probably had a more realistic vibe to it than a lot of kind of things that try to put people as college students, where they'll have like some 40-year-old playing like an 18-year-old, kind of a thing. Whereas like even John Belushi in it, there was the whole thing where he's like just been in college for years, and just the way he was dressed.
7 years or whatever, yeah.
And like John Belushi is fucking fantastic in it. Like, I have to give him his dues. Like, it's, and especially for the time, having someone like that doing some of the things. Like, one of the famous scenes is with him going along in the canteen, getting the food, going along and eating the sandwiches and all that. And they're saying, oh, that was totally ad-libbed. And there was just something really nice about John Belushi. It was a tragic loss. The same as kind of Chris Farrell and all these guys that seem to emulate him, or kind of like Chris Farley, seem to emulate him or take on, like,
Yeah, that's sort
parts
of
of them
larger
over
than
the
life
years,
persona, or you're kind of wild and wacky and the sort of the unpredictable one, like, you know.
Yeah. And like eating drugs.
Yes. Not a good way to go, boys and girls.
Well, I think the cinematography in Old School is, even though it's fine, it does kind of still have the vibe of a straight to video thing. Like, I mean, you look at where Todd Phillips is now with stuff like The Joker.
Yeah.
And even with like fucking The Hangover. Like The Hangover kind of starts off really well, but I suppose that nearly a segue into the music. Like with The Hangover, one of the great things about that, what I liked about it was the music. And like with it starting off with fucking Danzig singing 13, it was just like, what?
Yeah.
This is, you know, whereas in Old School, music is fucking spot on.
Yeah.
I think even like it was the first time I would never have listened to Ryan Adams only for Old School. I still wouldn't listen to him, but I do like that song because of Old School.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, like a perfect rendition of Dust in the Wind as well. Like, you know, at the
I forgot about it. Yeah. But it's the best use of a Metallica song in any film.
That's true, actually. Yeah, it just blasts out of nowhere, and it's just like Master of Puppets. And like, I mean, you can use it anywhere in any film for a bit of effect, but this one, it's the shock of the unexpected, where like everyone is nice and quiet and genteel, and then suddenly silence is broken by this van fucking like careening around a corner trying to snatch up pledges, and Master of Puppets blaring out of it.
Yeah,
It's good.
Like, I mean, you compare to, say, Stranger Things, and it seemed to introduce everyone that wasn't aware of fucking Metallica
yeah.
to it. And I get they used Master of Puppets for that scene because it was like about Vecna, who was a puppet master and all this kind of shit. But at the same point, it's like fucking for whom the bell tolls would have been, because there was the whole thing about the fucking clock chiming and the bell. You know, it would have been a lot better, I think, for
that particular thing, yeah. But Master of Puppets, I think, was definitely well used in Old School.
It was amazing. But like the soundtrack is just really, really, really good to Old School.
Yeah, and it is like, I mean, I think it does kind of it pegs it a bit to its time as well. You know, started with Snoop Dogg and that kind of thing as well. But
well, as well, the little kind of callback, because Ivan Reitman was involved in, as I pointed out to you before we started, in the production of both of them.
As you pointed out.
Yes,
as I pointed out.
But it's like you had the whole thing where Louie was like played in Animal House, but they also played the Black Flag version of it in Old School, where it's nearly a kind of a nod, say, like what they used to do with horror movies in the 80s with like, you know, the way Wes Craven would have fucking kind of like a poster of the Evil Dead in the background. And, you know, where they were like trying to say, oh, this we're scarier than you. Where it nearly seemed like this is
our nod to
this is our fucking kind of like, and it's like an updated version of Animal House laying into it. Whereas Animal House's soundtrack is really, really good too, with all those kind of, I don't know, what you call them, rhythm and blues kind of things.
60s, I suppose, again. 60s. As well,
But it's, you know, they're lively.
Lively. My God, you sound like such an old
but you know what
pensioner.
I mean? They could have played like fucking kind of shitty, kind of like, you know, say Simon and Garfunkel or fucking, I don't know.
You say Simon and Garfunkel, that was used to great effect in Old School. Hello, darkness.
Yeah, but you know, kind of like they could have had, whereas like a lot of this was like Rich Berry, Jim Lee, Steve Bishop, Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Herb Alpert. I could keep naming out all these people.
You could if you'd just stop reading everything there. But yeah, Sam Cooke is kind of essentially the sound of the 60s, isn't he?
I don't know who he is.
Well, I go on a little sidetrack here. This will probably pinpoint who I am and my location if anybody else has listened to it who went through this. We used to have an English teacher in secondary school. He was a slightly older gent and didn't really ever know when people were making fun of him or not, but a really nice guy. And for our end of year 3, she'd like, I'll play you some music, girls. And then it'd be like, he'd just sit at the top of the class and he'd be clicking away going, Sam Cooke, girls, Sam Cooke, Sam Cooke. And we were all just there going,
who the fuck is Sam Cooke?
He was like a big fucking hit back in the 60s and stuff.
With what?
Fucking Twisting the Night Away, I think, or whatever it is. Those kind of things, you know? It's just
Twisting.
Twisting.
Was he related to Jive Bunny?
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. It was his uncle, I think. Yeah, there you go. But
so your man would actually sing
what?
Or would he sing the songs, or would he just...
No, he'd just sit there clicking going, Sam Cooke, girls.
All right.
Sam Cooke.
Sure, it was having a stroke and you were there. Oh, this is great.
Anyway, that was a total sidetrack there. back to Old School and Animal House and the music.
Yeah, I think for like as good as the music is in both of them, kind of like for just because Master of Puppets is an Old School.
They're going to give it to that, yeah.
Yeah, well, not even giving it to, but like I mean, that at all is to kind of make it stand out a bit more to me, and as well, I quite like Black Flag's cover of Louie Louie.
Well, for me, I think it's Dust in the Wind. That's my favourite part out of the whole thing. That and,
Fucking
Sound of Silence.
Don't forget the Dan Band.
Oh, I suppose, actually,
The
I had
best
forgotten about
cover
the Dan
of,
Band,
like, everyone's forgotten about the fucking Dan Band.
Yeah,
Only
they
for
were so
they
big
popped
for
up
a
in a
while.
lot of those films.
Yeah.
I think did they have one
Wedding
album
Singer?
out? Were they
Yeah,
the
we
Wedding Singer as well?
I'm nearly sure it was them, alright, yeah. We had the Dan Band album years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, just pops up as like fucking Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah.
And they're the wedding band, obviously, and they're singing for the first dance, and everyone is like, oh, lovely and soppy, and it's like, every now and again I fucking fall apart.
Yeah.
I fucking need
And
you
it's like people just carry on.
Yeah, because they're like, did I
Well,
actually hear that?
Now,
I'm
for
not
our
sure.
own wedding, we had a similar kind of
Yes.
thing where it wasn't a live band, but we had like Uncle Fucker played and
From
everyone
South
has
Park.
AIDS.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of South Park heavy songs on that one.
yeah, I think that wouldn't have been just after coming out, just before. It would have been out a long time before we got
Yeah.
married. But it's and it was like a lot of older aunts and uncles that were at it, and you could see him kind of like out danced away, and then they're like, "What?"
What are the lyrics to
Yeah.
this? They catch one little snatch and be like, what are they saying? I thought this was a wholesome thing. But yeah, anyway, yeah, music,
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I give it to it.
But so it's well, where do we go from there? But the director, like I mean, say you look at Tom Phillips, Todd Phillips, yes, where he kind of went, like we were saying with like the Hangover films, and then like no one when he was announced as being the director for Joker, people were like, "Fucking what?" And now all of a sudden he's a Hollywood, kind of like.
He's in there.
Well, he's still kind of like underground because a lot of people even with the new, even though he did brilliant with the Joker, where you kind of go, all right, the man is after proving, he's after proving himself quite a lot that he had. I don't think there's a bad movie in the Hangover trilogy at all, which is a hard thing to do because they're like, I mean, all right, you have ones that are better than some of them and stuff, but like,
they're all pretty serviceable. Like.
yeah, where you kind of go, look, maybe the guy knows what he's doing. So like, everyone loved the Joker, even though they were all ready to shit all over it. Now it's the same with Folie à Deux that he has coming out because Lady Gaga is in it playing Harley Quinn, and they're like, oh, what's she doing? And it's like, no, Lady Gaga might be quite. She looks the part, and she can sing, and she's a good performer. And yeah, but sure, I think she was nominated for an Oscar for was that thing with Bradley Cooper, fucking. When a Star is Born or some shit like that.
Look at you with your knowledge of like.
See, I can
musical
remember
stuff.
some kind of things. I have a terrible memory on me, but for some reason, fucking certain things, even films that I haven't watched like that, because there would have been such hype around it, or they would have won Oscars at the time. Now, maybe they didn't win Oscars, but I think Bradley Cooper definitely won an Oscar. Or maybe it was for that film that he was in with your woman out of Hunger Games. What's her name?
I know what it is. He definitely won. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe it was that other one. Who was the girl that was in the Hunger Games? Wow.
What is her name?
Oh, fucking Hayley.
Not Hayley. It's...
I don't know.
God,
Doesn't
she was
matter.
everywhere for a long time.
Anyway.
But she's not in any of the films. Maybe she's going to be doing a remake of Animal House.
Maybe she is.
She could play Dean Warber in it. When
Yes,
they're
have,
kind
a,
of
have
like
a flip of everything, yes,
Yeah.
not bad. But I suppose the It Factor.
What?
One of-
Laura's just going off the list. But the It Factor, I think Animal House
It's the daddy of
It
them all.
Factor,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It was a kind of projection.
there would be
of everything.
no. So we're talking about directors,
Yeah.
but like with Todd Phillips, that he was like he's really after coming on. Like you can see the progression from it. Whereas there's a John Landis directed Animal House, like John Landis. That went on to do like the Thriller video. What an American Werewolf in London and all that, so like Trading Place, the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, which would have been
Coming to
basically sort of
America.
like Animal House, except on top.
Yeah, it's not that they kind of like what they ended up going on doing from it, but like I suppose you could say is like, I mean, not that this wasn't Todd Phillips' debut movie or
No.
anything, but it's, well, we're just going to have you talk away there, Laura. I'm going to see what his debut movie was.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, like John, all the films like that he went on to do, they're all like great fucking comedies. Like he has
Road Trip.
Was his debut, yeah. But yeah, like he's so many great comedies in, sort of in his oof, if you want to put it like that. Like it's Three Amigos, and they all have some element of that kind of slapstick in it as well. Where it's like this unexpected fucking violence out of the middle of nowhere, which it just makes you laugh out of pure like surprise. Absurdist humour. So I kind of like I think Family Guy might have drawn an awful lot from it as well.
Oh God, without a shadow of a doubt. Like I think Animal House just had massive impact on everything. Like I mean, it's one of those as well because we're at that. Like I can't place things. We would have grown up in the 80s, and I remember like for some reason what I seem to remember was like really big in the 80s comedy wise was films like Porky's, because it would have been like a fucking like going into video stores. So I know kind of say probably what would have been big comedy hits in the 80s would have been Woody Allen movies as well, with like Oscar kind of things, and but in the video stores it was like Porky's, like Ski School, fucking Police Academy, all these things were like the things that people actually liked, and that rented out a lot as well. They wouldn't have been fucking making so many of these kind of rip-offs
if there wasn't a market for it.
And like we were saying, old school wouldn't exist without that. And so I think like directing wise, I think John Landis
is really weird noise.
John Landis, it's just fucking my brain. Animal House is just like better directed, I think, because you had to have a lot of the new things, and as well the timing on it and the pacing on the editing. It's just fucking brilliant. Just the way.
I'd say you need good timing for slapstick and for gags and sight gags and visual gags to work like that, So I think it was all fairly well hung together, I suppose, even though it didn't have really much of a story. Every scene worked by itself, you know what I mean?
But as well, you have some of the things like say with Dean Wormer that ended up becoming nearly a trope in movies as well, where you have like the straight man, like that fucking you look at the Naked Gun movies. There's always like people are playing it straight.
Yeah.
And that they're like caught up in like Leslie Nielsen's lunacy, whereas you kind of got that with Dean Wormer, where he's like, or even people around him where you'd expect him, he's just insane, like. Yeah.
And I mean, it's, you have the whole trope as well of people going into a nightclub where they're not expecting what's on the other side of the door, like, the Blue Oyster in Police Academy.
Well, sure, didn't they do something similar
Was it the Blue Oyster?
Yeah, it was Blue Oyster in Road Trip, which would have been Tom Phillips' thing, where when they're on the road trip, they go into a party. I think it's another high school where it's like an all black fraternity, and they have a great time. And to your man, the skinny fee ended up being like a werewolf in Supernatural.
Oh yeah.
He was a hunter. What the fuck was his name?
Garrett,
in it. Whereas he like ends up sleeping with this the African American lady, and like that's how he loses. But there's a big thing because like there's contrast between her being like really big and he's like really small,
tiny, skinny, so frail, like.
But yeah, so that was like direct rip off, really. But like updated without the fear and racism. Kind of not that it was racist in Animal House. There's no racism in it at all. Whereas a lot of movies at that time, not a lot of movies, but some movies at that time would have had elements about that, like maybe unintentional. But like I mean, there's no kind of thing there, like, which I suppose colleges in the 60s would have been progressive.
Yeah, very forward
towards that. Would have been probably for civil rights, obviously.
Yes.
Like we're not from America, so we don't know like the timeline of things. We could look it up, but like that'd be kind of like us.
That'd be like work. Yeah. Oh my god.
So I think directing wise, like that, Animal House is a better directed film. But when it comes to the it factor, like we were saying, I suppose you could give it to Animal House as well, but there is something about old school. Just with the start of it, there's just something that, like, I could look at old school again and again and again.
Oh yeah,
Animal
absolutely,
House.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about sort of like transcendent or whatever, I do think Animal House was, as I said, the daddy of them all. It's the original that all others are kind of based on. So from that perspective, I think Animal House has to get its dues for that. But again, old school, there's just so many scenes in it that are just like fucking, and a lot of them I suppose do have to do a bit with Will Ferrell and his willingness to just like put himself out there, like, you know, sort of Frank the Tank streaking. Yeah, I mean, that's just totally shocking, and it's the whole thing is just so ridiculous where he's getting into the car when the wife picks him up and it's just the bare arse just being turned up, and you know, it's just.
But even just the stupid things, that there are subtle things that they do in old school. I suppose the thing is, old school is better for modern sensibilities. Animal House, I don't think it's aged terribly, but it's like nearly a 50-year-old film.
Yeah,
like that would have been like us looking at Casablanca when we were fucking young, you know, like the difference in it. Whereas with Casablanca, you look at it and kind of go,
that's from like
fuck you, Humphrey Bogart. I don't think I've ever actually looked at it. I never will. Got to have a thing about older movies, but you know, whereas like if you probably put on Animal House for a teenager now, I think they'd still find it funny.
Yeah, of course.
With it, but old school has more modern sensibility. I suppose they learn there's more kind of like tricks in it.
Yeah.
But it is like what you were saying, Will Ferrell, I think, is largely to thank for the success of old school with the laughs. With it, like the kids' party is fucking amazing when he goes down. That when he turns into Frank the Tank, but the small bit, like even the fucking bet up fucking shitty car that he has, where it's like when they're trying to act like a husband and wife and they don't really know how to do it, and she comes out to him like blaring Whitesnake, because like at that stage, I think people nowadays are probably. Like Whitesnake isn't as corny as it was back. Like Whitesnake was a fucking joke at that stage, where it was like, oh god, like, you know, that it's like what person would be listening to Whitesnake?
It's like, and
it's like this is the person, and he has his bandana on him, especially for his car. Like,
I'm working on my car in my driveway because this is what grown adults do.
But there's something about Vince Vaughn as well. I feel like without Vince Vaughn in it, because as much of a shit that he's meant to be, there's something very likeable about Vince Vaughn.
I mean, as I said, it's like fucking. He's like, oh jeez, I've got all these kids, but he's such a caring dad. Like, you know, even it's like fucking. He has a kid taught to like put your headphones on. The kid puts his hand over his ear so he doesn't hear anyone like cursing or swearing or anything like that. You know, it's just sweet little things like that. Or he's always looking out for the welfare of the kids, and of course he throws a fantastic party for the kids as well. You know, the birthday party.
So I think they could have made the mistake when they were doing the film of focusing on the people that they were like bringing into it, or they could have done a sequel where it was like, oh, here's the
frat,
the frat, you know. Whereas I think it was right just to focus on those instead. I think it would have been just all over the place if they had like loads of. But in fairness, in the way that they had the people. You'd still identify characters out of it.
No, that's what I mean. Like everyone that was in it, I think, had their own. You knew who they were. You knew what they were like. You knew sort of what type of person they were. They had their own backstory. They had their own personalities. You know what I mean? They weren't just like cardboard cutouts to like populate the frat with.
But that's, I think, the way that they introduced a lot of them by. Like the first party that they had, you get to meet Spanish and a few others, but then there was the whole thing where when they were doing the master puppet scene, when they were like abducting
picking them all up,
where you get to see what they're doing in their spare time or what
their whole life or whatever.
So I think with that, like, I mean, that's one thing. Well, I suppose coming down to it at the end, I suppose we're near the point where it's like, what would you say is a better film out of two?
I enjoy Old School more just because I have always been a huge Will Ferrell fan. Like, I mean, I think Zoolander might have been the first thing that I saw him in, and I, honest to God, I think I laughed for about 3 days straight after that. And nobody else in the cinema laughed. So I was totally on my own and getting strange
Well,
jokes.
it was kind of the start of that, what they were called nearly anti-humour, where, you know, where people didn't really know, because it's like, they're not telling jokes and it's not really slapstick.
Yeah, it's just like, absurdist kind of stuff. Yeah. But honest to God, like, it was that whole kind of era, I suppose. Like, looking back on it now, I know it probably is a little bit dated and people probably don't find it as funny or anything like that, but that's the same with all.
But do you remember
the cyclical nature of comedy?
We saw Anchorman, I think, in the cinema, and people... Anchorman didn't fucking take off at all. Anchorman was a flop, and we got it on DVD, and then they had like nearly a second movie from outtakes. And that was where... But like... And the people that we knew, there wasn't many people that we knew actually liked it, and we thought that it was fucking the funniest fucking thing that we've
But
ever...
the thing is, that's like, I think, like, it's often been said like online and stuff like that. Before the days of fucking sharing memes, guys used to just sit around in a circle and quote Anchorman at each other, and that basically is what it is. Like, I mean, there's fucking that was the early internet. I think it was just like, you know, memes from Anchorman, and it still persists. Like, but there's probably teenagers don't even know what they're saying. Like, 60% of the time.
I think that the generation behind us came up and really kind of got into it, where it's like, because it was so different from stuff at the time, and it was like SNL humor. Like it was like Will Ferrell's SNL, like a lot of that stuff that they brought from SNL that I suppose probably younger people were getting into, but didn't really translate over into movies at that stage.
Yeah.
But like it's like with Hot Rod with Andy Samberg.
Yeah.
Like Andy Samberg now, I suppose, is probably more known for Brooklyn
Nine-Nine,
yeah. But more so than the Lonely Island or kind of like that. But like fucking.
It was that kind, that brand of humor, like, where it was like just really unexpected stuff.
That's Pam Brady, is it the writer? She wrote a lot of South Park. She did that Hamlet 2 as well, which is a great movie for anyone that she wrote.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
But like it is this whole thing. It's like as you were saying, that scene in Hot Rod where fucking they have John Farnham's "You're the Voice" and they start like having this riot in the middle of the street.
The first time we saw that, and there was one of our friends we got to look at it, and he was like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing ever!" And it was probably a few years after it was out.
Yeah.
And then he showed it to his wife, and his wife was like, "What's this shit?" Yeah. And she was like, "Were you stoned looking at this or something?"
But that's like, I mean, it's that whole humour. If you go, Anchorman, you have that where they start throwing tridents at each other on horseback, and like, Brick is like, "I think I killed him, man." It's just such bizarre.
I think a lot of it is a callback to the old SNL stuff, and it's a callback to stuff like Animal Party, or Animal House. With the National Lampoon stuff, because it was that already, and it was just an updated version of it.
Yeah.
So you're giving it to old school then, right?
I'm giving it to old school purely on the fact that I would watch it more often and I find it funnier. It's more my style, my taste in humour. Whereas I can see, obviously, without Animal House, we wouldn't have old school.
Yeah. Well, it's just because something has a pedigree, I don't think should kind of like automatically give it thing is saying that it's better than something that and like I'd be the same for you. I think I'd go for old school. Like I love Animal House. I've seen it God knows how many times. Like it has that pedigree there. It's influenced lots of things. But I do if I was given a choice between what are you going to look at again, I'd look at that
old school for the laugh.
There was just something, and like I mean that might be just with our generation. Like we're in our 40s, so it might be just that kind of thing.
That hits home.
Yeah.
But that's, as I said, like it's like, I mean, old school, it isn't the film that hit well in sort of the generous. It wasn't a big hit in people's psyche, but like I find myself the whole time since I've seen the film way back when it came out, I don't think I've ever stopped saying "You're my boy, Blue" in random situations, and 99% of people will not have a clue like what I'm going on about. I've made peace with that, and that most people just think I'm an absolute idiot.
But that's the thing about, say, films like that, and we've talked about it before. We must actually do an episode on Coffee Town, just like not putting it up against anything, just talking about. But it's there's this whole fucking thing with like a lot of comedy movies, great comedy movies, come from nowhere, and they're normally not like, say, modern kind of ones. They wouldn't have been in the cinema, or they wouldn't have got to the cinema. They were just like made as not throwaway things, but they were made by young directors and like a young team.
They went straight to DVD or whatever, and they actually thrived then in the home video market.
And it's harder.
That's where they got their cult status,
to see those things being made anymore. Like I have a couple of things bookmarked that they're kind of like newer kind of like films with like an unknown cast, or I'm kind of like must give these a chance because you never know, these could be fucking
the next Anchorman, the next Old School, the next Animal House.
But I think it's just the way things are gone now. It's harder for things to
hit big. I think. I think audiences are so fragmented nowadays.
Yeah, and
everyone is off watching on like streaming services.
And a lot of these things, they don't show up, or if they do show up on streaming, like Netflix are going to promote the hell out of their own kind of comedy, their own comedy series, which of course they're going to. It's their platform, like, so it's harder to come across these things. But then again, at the same point, there's a platform for some of them.
Yeah. But it is the thing, like, where everyone is just, we fucking cut the cable and we got rid of cable companies. It's like we've just reinvented them basically, because if you want to see everything that you want to see, you got to get Hulu, you got to get Amazon, you got to get HBO, you got to get Netflix,
or you can just pirate everything.
It's
easier now than ever just to pirate things, but it is a pain in the arse at the same point.
I know,
we have like fucking how many different streaming things do we have? Where
it is like you're essentially paying as much as you did for fucking cable back in the day, like, and you still don't have everything on it, like.
Yeah, you have better choice though.
True. I know.
But I suppose that's it. Yeah, the two of us are in agreement with old school.
Here I go again.
Yeah, if you don't agree with it, let us know in the comments somewhere.
Anyways.
on someone else's random
Yeah.
Video. Just
Yeah,
go
just
on like, you know,
Tell you to go and shit in a bucket
dealing
somewhere.
with grief. It's like, fucking you were wrong about Old School. You bitch.
Yes, maybe don't do that.
But yeah, look, we ended up. I think maybe going forward this one, we won't give our scores until the end.
Yeah.
We won't like go XXX, and we'll kind of just go through it. So yeah, look,
Go watch Old School and Animal House.
Animal House, yeah.
And maybe throw a rager somewhere.
Yeah, next week we'll definitely be doing The Hunger and Lovers Left Alive.
Will we now?
No, we won't. No. I just can't bring myself to look, because like the thing is, I like Jim Jarmusch, but the thoughts of
Have
a
to sit down
serious
and,
kind of thing.
Study it.
Although we might do maybe 30 Days a Night or something like that.
Yes, maybe. Don't promise anything.
Yeah, we won't promise that, yeah. But
be-
yeah, look.
Making promises that your butt can't cash.
Yeah, but yeah, look, until next week, thank you for listening.